Hello and welcome to the C++11 Beginner Tutorials by Gamer2Creator. I'm Chris. As you can see, our project is just the way we left it from the output stream lesson. And that's not it. I need to open this up. And this is the file that we wrote. It looks just like this. And you should also note that there is actually a new line after this number. If you were to change this file by hand, you'd have to make sure that there is a new line right here. So I wanted to point that out, and that we're also going to use this file for inputting in this lesson. We're going to cover the input stream. And because we've already outputted a file, we're going to use that file. And instead, we're going to input. So let's find an input stream, IFS. And you should notice that this is very much like an output stream, just with an I for input. Again, we can open this file using the constructor, or we can do ifs.open the name, and the open modes. We're going to do in. And here you could also do some of those other ones that we covered in the last lesson. We check for good. Should be an if here. And we're going to go ahead and write our close method. So now we've got our open, our close, and we even check for an error. Now we're going to loop for while excuse me, ifs.eof. Now this will return true once we've hit the end of the file, but it'll return false while we haven't reached the end of the file. So we want to flip this using the not operator. So if it returns false, the not operator will flip that to true. So you can read this as while we have not reached the end of the file. And then do what's in our loop. Now here we're going to make an employee, call it emp. And then we're going to do ifs push right emp dot, excuse me, first. And then just like when we're using sin console in, we have to ignore that new line. But without this new line, there wouldn't be anything in between m name first and m name last, and then this line would have read both of them in to this string. So we have to delimit them or separate them by something, and we chose a new line. And I'll make that a little bit more pretty. And now we've now we have extracted our data. First we've got the string name, last, age, and salary. Now there's one more thing we need to do. Because if you think of streams and even strings, as you reach the end, if you're reading the last character right here with the new line, the stream doesn't know yet that the next character would be an end of file. So we have to use a function to peek at the next character without pulling it from the stream. And so we use peek. What this does is it just looks at the stream and looks at the next character, and it doesn't pull it out of the stream, and it doesn't modify it. It just looks at it, and it's sort of like a test. And this is going to achieve the goal of the stream peeking at the next character, and if it is the end of file character, this will then return true. And then the not will flip it. And then this while will exit. So if you didn't do this, if you didn't peek at the next character, it would actually continue the loop until it attempted to do this line. And then it would be, oh, wait a minute, we can't do this. It's the end of the character. And this line wouldn't do what you think it would do. And then this line wouldn't do what you think it'd do. And all of your data would be messed up, and hopefully it would just leave these as empty values. But then you'd have an extra employee in your vector if you did it like this. Now we never did push it back, so we need to do my employees.pushback imp. So now we add the imp that we just created to the vector, and then peek. Now this is really all we need. It's this simple. This is just like if you remember using sin. I mean, this code is almost exactly the same, only we're doing a little bit more stuff just to make sure that we have done things correctly. So let's see if this works. We're going to stop this right down here. We're going to check our vector. And what is it doing? Okay, it wants me to push the send.get. Now we can look at our employee vector. We see there's 2 of them, and they have been filled out correctly. Since this was our data, you can see Chris, Lee, 27, whatever that number is, and then Tiny Tim, 27, and 54,000. So this is input and output streams. They're actually not that hard whenever you do it in text mode. However, you do have to come up with some way to format your data, and I just chose a very simple way of putting each variable on its own line. This operator right here handles the conversion from the text-based file to the binary-based variables such as age and salary, and it even converts it into an STD string if that's what this variable is. So you don't have to worry about any of the conversions. And whenever you do OFS, whenever you take such as imp.age and put it into the text stream, it actually converts from an integer to a string or an array of characters, just like we see. I closed it. Because this is actually an array of characters. The 8 character, the 9 character, the 8 character, the 9 character, the 8 character, and then the 9 character. In binary, you could actually display this using just 4 bytes instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because an integer is 4 bytes. But this is the string representation of an integer. And remember that you can do the same things with IFS that you could do with an OFS, such as check for fail, bad, EFS, and things of that nature. There's also the clear, which will reset all of the flags. But as you can see, this really isn't that difficult.